it is with great joy that I invite Professor Dr. Lucien Legrand to deliver the felicitation address.
Your Grace, Archbishops, my Lord Bishop, dear fathers, sisters, brothers, and all of you, my friends, I suppose that the reason for which I stand here on the days is that I represent the beginnings of this institution, of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute. I suppose I am the only one here who was actively present 50 years ago in the framework of that institution. And so in that capacity, I think that I represent a number of absent figures who are very much present with us today. I'm referring to all those with whom I have been working, collaborating in the context of this institution. And to mention only those who have passed away, and to restrict myself to bishops only, I would mention Archbishop Michael Augustine of Pondicherry, Father Michael Augustine, who, if I am not mistaken, was the first president of the Institute. He was the rector of the seminary, and at that time, in the time of the humble beginnings, there was no difference between rector and president. And so, as rector, he became, I think, the first president of the Institute, and he's the one who had to set in action and to do all the work, the needful moral, spiritual, intellectual, material. For instance, he put up the beginning of the MTH postgraduate building. So I feel, when I am presently on the days, I feel that he is also very much among us. To restrict ourselves to bishop only, I should mention, of course, Bishop Sequeira, who was also rector and also a very brilliant professor of the Institute, cooperating for the erection of this Institute. I'm thinking of Archbishop Ananda Rayer, who was very instrumental in setting up the Canon Law Institute. I think we should not forget either Cardinal Lourdou-Samy, who was a student of the seminary before it was an institute, who became Archbishop of Bangalore, and afterwards in Rome, finally prefect of several congregations, the evangelization of the people and the Oriental churches. And I think that he was very much attached to St. Peter's, and I think he was very influential in Rome there to have St. Peter's erected to that dignity and responsibility of being a becoming a theological institute. I mention only bishops because the list would be too long to mention all the priests, members, sisters also, who have been working in the framework of the institution and who have passed away. And evidently, I don't mention those who are presently alive and who are working in a dedicated manner for the growth of this institution. Let me mention at least, I think it deserves to be mentioned, among those who have passed away, Father Joseph Francis, of Bangalore Archdiocese. Many among you have known, many among you have been impressed by his personality, his spirituality, and also his theological competence. And there are many. And they are present with us today. And as I am standing on the dais, I think that I simply, their voice, I represent them, and I pray them also to continue to look after the growth of this institution. I am also, my capacity as a senior, very senior member, is that I was there at the beginning, and so I can witness that the beginnings were very arduous. It was not easy to start a theology faculty with the existing resources, but at that time anyway, and still now, we are motivated by a strong determination, a vision. I think St. Peter's represents a vision, and it is that vision that I want to share with you. I've often been thinking during these years of the book of Newman, Cardinal Newman, the idea of a university. I have often learned from the Enlightenment in that book. In that book, Cardinal Newman was a recent convert from Anglicanism to the Catholic Church, explains the need of a university in the context of that time to meet the challenge, particularly of Protestantism, in the context of Ireland, which was at that time colonized by the British, and the Catholics were actually in minority position. And he explains the need of a Catholic university to face that challenge in which they are. And I thought that the challenge of our Institute of Theology is even greater, is similar but even greater, because the challenge is much bigger. The challenge is the church in India and the church in Asia and in the world. And the church in India, in Asia, in the world meets with a lot of problems nowadays. You all know them. And to meet those problems, the church needs an equipment, and particularly an intellectual and spiritual equipment. And that is the vision that must motivate us, motivate the Institute, which has motivated the erection of the Institute. And one particular feature of it is that it has been that task, that responsibility, in the case of St. Peter's Pontifical Institute, has been entrusted to the diocesan clergy. The diocesan clergy, which finally is the core of the, at least sacerdotal structure of the church. And St. Peter's, I would say, has the added responsibility, dignity, and graces of God to, as a diocesan clergy, to be equipped with that equipment, spiritual and intellectual equipment. That is the challenge that faces us, the challenge that during 50 years the Institute has attempted to meet, to respond, It is a challenge which is even bigger now in a world which, as you know, is more and more in turmoil. In that world, well, we have to give the gospel response, the Christian response. It is a heavy responsibility, but the grace of God has been with the Institute for 40 years. The grace of God will remain certainly with the Institute for further and further progress. Thank you.